Today is October 20th, and we are currently in Big Bend at the Soltal Overlook. We're going to hang out here and watch the sunset. So, if it's not already obvious, since we're in Big Bend, we did decide to go ahead and just continue on our trip despite the loss of our cat, Bourbon, which is still pretty upsetting, but we didn't want to end the trip on a sad note like that and just head straight back home and have that be the only way that we remembered, this trip. So we decided to continue on. But we decided to take it a little easier. So we didn't camp in Big Bend. We just stayed in a little roadside motel in Terlingua, right outside the park, which is a pretty cool little town. We went and hung out at the, the Starlight? Yeah.
Yeah, there's something next to it too.
It's the Starlight. It's like a restaurant, but it's basically the front porch of Terlingua. A ton of people there last night. It was fun. Drank some beer, hung out. Backing up a little bit before we got to Terlingua. Let's see. I think that the last update before the Bourbon one was right after we had left Aguirre Springs and we were on our way to White Sands. Aguirre Springs was a really nice campground. Definitely recommend staying there if you are in the area. I think I already said that in the previous video, but again, it was good. So after we left there in the morning, a couple days ago, we went to we went to White Sands just for the day, which was really cool. White Sands, like when you drive in there, it's like snow.
Yeah, it looks just like snow.
Yeah, it looks like you're driving in snow, and it is like the softest, finest sand that I have ever.
Yeah, we didn't even get any in our shoes or anything.
Yeah, like it doesn't really stick to your feet too bad, and it was a lot of fun. We just walked around on the dunes a bunch, ate a little bit of lunch there. Just played around on the dunes mostly for the day, which is pretty much the only thing there is to do there. So it's definitely worth checking out. I'd say it's more of like a day trip thing because there is no campground or anything there.
There's no shade anywhere.
And there's no shade absolutely anywhere. So if you're that hardcore and you want to do like a desert hike, I think it was like a 5-mile hike, and you can also hike further back into the backcountry there, but it's pretty remote. That's more of a day trip thing, I'd say, but that was a lot of fun. And then after that, we headed down to Guadalupe Mountains National Park, which was really cool and is also another one of the Sky Island things that we had discovered at that previous national monument, Chiricahua, I think. So I guess there's a series of these Sky Islands all throughout the southeastern United States, or southwestern United States, and down into Mexico all the way to South America, which is why you have some species that, mostly exist in like South America, like the, what are those things called? The Coatimundi.
Yeah.
They actually migrated up from South America and live in that park. So let's see, Guadalupe Mountains was really cool. We did a hike, what was that thing called that we went to? There's like the hiker's staircase.
Oh yeah, that was
cool. And then the Devil's, what was it?
Devil's Hall.
Devil's Hall.
Yeah, that was cool.
We did the Devil's Hall hike, which was really cool. You basically go up between, up a valley a little ways, and you go into a wash and hike up a ways. It was about, I think, like 4.5 miles round trip. We did it kind of later in the day, so we got back like right before it got dark, so it was perfect timing. But there's a lot of really cool rock formations and stuff up there. Very unique landscape, and again, it's one of those Sky Island things, so it's kind of different than the surrounding like desert type stuff.
Right. The camping there was...
Yeah, the camping situation was a little weird. So the one we stayed at, I think it was the Pine Springs campground. It's very small. All of the tent sites you have to carry your tent in. So if you're doing like us and sleeping in the element, we could have parked in the campground, but I think the tents area was full. So we went into the RV part, which is actually just a parking lot where you can park your RV. So we just grabbed a spot in there. But it was convenient because the trailhead that we did was literally right next to where we parked our car.
Yeah,
and
it was
slept
like
that
dual parking for the
Yeah.
trail.
So it worked out. So we just did that trail, and then the next morning we hit the road because there was a pretty nasty looking storm coming in, just hanging over the mountain. And we were heading out anyway, so we just packed up a little quicker than we probably would have otherwise.
It looked very intense.
Yeah,
Glad we got out
was a
when we
little
did.
rough.
Yeah.
Then we proceeded on to Carlsbad. So we spent kind of the day in Carlsbad, did what you do in Carlsbad, and went into the cave. We hiked in from the natural entrance all the way down to the bottom, walked all the trails down, in the cave itself.
In the great room.
In the great room, and all the different little nooks and crannies that you can get into, which was pretty cool. It's definitely an interesting park, just because of the way that they've built the walkways all through the cave. So it is accessible to pretty much anybody, which is nice. But you also don't quite get to see the cave as it originally existed. But on the flip side, you probably wouldn't be able to if it weren't for all the walkways, because you would have to climb and do all kinds of...
Or it wouldn't be preserved the way it needs to be.
Yeah, so mixed bag, but it's cool to be able to go in there, and it was perfect 55 degrees down there,
nice.
the whole time, which was really cool.
It was nice being in the shade for the first time this trip.
Yeah. So yeah, after Carlsbad, we hit the road, started heading south back towards Texas. I have never been stopped and asked about not stopped, but had to stop at Border Patrol checkpoints so many times. I've been asked if I'm a U.S. citizen while I'm inside my own country.
Or if there are people in our car.
Or if there's people in my car. So, yeah, I'm not going to go into that, but it just felt a little stupid to me. But, yeah, so we proceeded down into Texas. The route we took from Carlsbad basically took us straight south. I don't remember the road, but it was an absolutely terrible drive.
It was the worst road we've ever been on.
Yeah, it was the worst part of the trip, or the worst drive of the trip for sure. It was all oil fields, all big rigs.
It was like the Wild
everywhere,
West out there. It was crazy.
People driving crazy. I don't know.
The roads themselves were
awful. Were terrible
yeah.
because of all the big rigs and oil trucks and everything.
And
going
the view
all
is
up and
just
down.
of all the oil rigs and everything.
It was gross.
It was horrible.
It was just torn up landscape everywhere, and it was just really ugly. And also a sketchy drive because of all the giant trucks and everything. We drove through a little oil boom town that is sits right at this intersection of two main roads, and it was the busiest four-way stop that I have ever seen.
Yeah.
It was just all trucks. They didn't have a stoplight. They probably should have, but it was just a stop sign. So it was.
And it was the first gas station we'd seen in forever. So
yeah, that was the first gas station.
If I had been traveling alone, I would not have wanted to go in that gas station.
I actually read on one of the comments. I was looking on iOverlander, which is an app we've been using for finding boondocking spots, which we haven't really had to do a whole lot, but. One of the comments I think was about that road, and it was do not go down this road. This road sucks. It's sketchy. There's people driving sketchy.
So naturally we went down it.
Yeah. So it was pretty much the only route from Carlsbad, unless we wanted to go hours out of the way.
Well, we were trying to go to that state park that had the spring.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were gonna go to some state park down that way, but then all the stuff with Bourbon happened. So at the end of that terrible drive, we got the terrible news about our cat and ended up staying in Pecos, Texas, which is kind of a meh town.
It was what it was, yeah.
Yeah, it was what it was. We stayed at a hotel. The hotel was okay, and yeah. Sorry, someone's being a lemming right now. Because I'm parked where I am, they also want to park right next to me, despite there being a million open spots. Anyway, yeah, so we stayed in Pecos, had to deal with that whole situation, and after talking about it, we decided to continue on the trip, and got our reservation at a little roadside motel. I think it's the El Dorado
Hotel,
motel or whatever in Terlingua. So we're gonna stay there. We stayed there last night.
We went to Marfa.
Yeah, we went
Yeah.
through Marfa on the way down, which was also pretty cool.
And Alpine was kind of cute too.
Yeah, Alpine was a cool town. We just drove through it, but we actually stopped in Marfa. And Marfa was interesting to walk around. I feel like the nightlife there is probably a little more interesting than it was during the day.
Yeah, we went at a weird time between like people coming in the morning and the nightlife, so it was kind of
Yeah.
a little dead when we were there, but it was cool.
But yeah, so then we ended up in Terlingua and hung out in Terlingua last night and walked around and got some beers and had a good time. And tonight we're gonna go actually eat at the Starlight Restaurant, which is pretty much the big main restaurant in town. I think it's where the old general store probably was.
Yeah, it's in the ghost town part of town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. It's a cool little ghost town, so I definitely recommend checking out Terlingua if you're in the area. It's very eclectic and kind of rough around the edges, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, but in a good way. Yeah,
Yeah, in a
not in
good
like
way.
a sketchy way.
So then today we just kind of cruised around Big Bend, went all up and down the park from the west end to the east end. Went up into Chiso's Basin, which is another sky island, which is really cool. It's kind of like
beautiful.
you're in a caldera of a volcano, but it's very green and like
Lush.
lush. So we went up in there and ate lunch at the restaurant in there, which was nice. And drove down to the south end of the park, or I guess the west end of the park. Went swimming in the Rio Grande, which was nice. We went to the hot spring that was here,
Yeah,
the
that was
little
cool.
hot spring bathhouse that was built here a long time ago. It's like right on the river. All that's left now is just the foundation, but you can go and sit in it, and it's an actual hot spring. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
It was a little crowded. There's a few people there,
Yeah.
but it wasn't as crowded as I would have expected. Yeah, so we've just been cruising around the park, and we are now sitting here to watch the sunset. So yeah, that's what we've been up to. And yeah, we'll be on the road. Next stop is Austin. We'll probably stay there for a day and then just proceed on back to North Carolina. See ya.